Hey review family, keep it high, keep it tight. My name is Jay Morris, and welcome back to the metal Tempest. And in this video, I'm going to be covering the new Palisades record entitled Reaching Hypercritical. Oh, God forbid, like, do you ever just have a band that you really liked in the past release a record that just disappoints you on practically every front that a band can? It's how I'm feeling with this record. So there is a period of time where Palisades' self-titled record really was one of my favorite records around that time. It really spoke to me, it meant a lot to me, I thought it sounded great, and while it wasn't the most, boundary pushing, and it was a little generic, the ferocity and the mixing, just everything, the vocals, the instrumentation, sounded very kind of just cool to me and scratched a certain post-hardcore, electronicore itch, and the way that they blended synths into their sound just sort of kept bringing me back to them, and it made me kind of interested in the future. The subsequent record that they released did not hit nearly as hard for me. Erase the Pain released just a year after that record, and as a result of that, I felt like it felt rushed. They were sort of abandoning some of their roots already that were on their self-titled record, or perhaps abandoning isn't the correct terminology I should use. I think they more so downgraded. They diluted, and everything felt more desaturated. But nothing could have prepared me for this fucking record. From the starting track, the single, My Consequences, which I actually was not aware of the singles leading into this record, so I stepped into it with a complete blind and deaf outlook on it, and I heard that introduction of that semi-rap beat, and I just sat there like, oh God, what am I in for? And it just got worse and worse and worse. From Reaching Hypercritical into Invincible, all I could feel is that this record is an amalgamation of every generic post-hardcore band you have ever heard from Rise Records, combined with the machismo and the overly theatrical and trying to sound more hypervigilant and righteous and important than it is of Skillet, mixed with the sort of metalcore instrumentals of Bullet for My Valentine. But I'm not talking about good Bullet for My Valentine. I'm talking like Venom Bullet for My Valentine. And those three comparisons, those three factors just meshed into one grotesque blob of hideousness should be an amazing indication of how this record sounds. Every single track is full to the brim, wall to wall, with some of the most generic topic matters, some of the most generic lyricism I've heard. It feels like every other Rise Records record, filled with all of these alternative rock chugging riffs and these like hyper vigilant vocals that are really trying so hard to get their point across and sound like they're meaningful and like they're so into it and so buff, man. Like, oh my lord, this track listing is full of so much cheesiness. Like, when I say that they sound like a generic alternative rock band and metal band from the 2000s that like had no songs that ever blew up, that's how I felt about like a track like let me just pick one out of a fucking hat. Your Misery. That track had me cackling. What is this distortion? What is this like trying to be like 9-inch nails instrumental? Like, you pick and choose, you fucking hypocrite. Like, what are these vocals? It sounds like Chad Kroeger trying to do an impression of Skillet's lead vocalist. In the past, the exuberant, high-pitched delivery of Palisades, it felt in the vocal register of this lead vocalist, but here, across so many tracks, it feels more as if he's like straining himself and stretching his vocal cords so thinly and trying to make this natural distortion. And when you put that shoulder to shoulder with these hyper-distorted instrumentals, everything about this mix sounds crunchy, but not in a pleasant way, not in a crisper, like, good way. It reads more like a fucking Imagine Dragons record, and that is not something that I would want to hear from Palisades. You know how Imagine Dragons always sounds compressed to hell and just pressed down, like someone put like the EQ and like the treble boost just a bit too high, and so it just sounds so like pounding your ears and bassy, just unpleasantly? That's how this record is mixed. Everything is underwhelming. Every chorus is extremely underwhelming. One thing that I really appreciated back on their self-titled record is the choruses popped, they snapped, they had resonance to them. Songs like Invincible and songs like Fray, I'll give the benefit of the doubt and say that they don't have the worst choruses that Palisades have ever done. But at the same token, they are extremely ununique, they are so homogenous, they are so desensitized, and feel like they're trying to do their best I Prevail impersonation. And the supposedly like heavy hitter tracks, like these singles for this record, are some of the most like underwhelming and least stand out tracks from a compositional standpoint. And it left me just sitting there yawning, waiting for something to happen as you go through these chugging alternative rock riffs and you see the patterns that they're playing by. Start the track off with some sort of subdued, understated, like instrumental atmospheric lead-in where it's about 20 to 30 seconds long with these monotone vocals that are like epic and trying to lead you in and make you feel some sort of like evoke some sort of emotion, and then burst into a chugging alternative rock riff and just a basic percussive element with the vocals getting more gruff and macho and kind of trying to sound more important than they are. Burst into a chorus that you could not pick out from a lineup across this entire record. Bottom line, unfortunately, there is nothing that is standing out to me about this record. It is just a completely familiar and just unoriginal, unapologetically cheesy record with so much corniness to go around. Nothing stuck with me. It felt like bubblegum. You chew the flavor out and just spit it out. And unfortunately, I am not a fan of this record whatsoever. And if I would ever want a good experience from this band, I would go back to their self-titled material. And if you aren't a fan of this record and feel the same way as me, go back to their self-titled record and you might realize that they at one point were a better band before they felt like they were just doing what every other Rise Records band does. There's just nothing standing out about this record, and it's one of the most disappointing listens I've had this entire year, easily. The best way that I can end this is it feels as if they've lost their identity. I could pick out a Palisades track in the past, and even if they weren't being very original in the production or the way they approached their sound, they still had enough of their own flavor and their own identity, I want to keep saying that it felt like them, it felt true to them, and they made some damn good music. I just can't say the same about this record, and it feels so flavorless and devoid of anything that'd make me want to come back to it. I'm going to be giving this album a 2 out of 10, and that is a wrap. Have you heard this new Palisades record, Reaching Hypercritical? If you have, let me know in the comment section below what you thought about it. I would love to discuss this record with you. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is. My name is Jay Morris, and I'm signing off saying farewell.